You got it, Foster.
And then I'm going to launch the poll so people can see it as they come in.
Awesome. People are Johnny on the spot taking this poll. Welcome if you're just joining us.
So far, the optimists are winning.
Yay! That sounds like the line of a song for some.
Yeah, or like a presidential campaign.
Yes. I hope that's true over a presidential campaign.
Ah!
Ah. If you're just joining us, you have found the Will Marketing Still Matter webinar. Welcome and thank you for being with us. We are just going to wait for a couple of minutes as people pop in and respond to the poll and get comfy and grab a drink or some snacks.
Yeah, it's lunchtime where you guys are at, right?
Yeah.
Time. We had to move lunchtime back in our house because I have an early bird and then two children, one an early bird and one who likes to sleep in till like 10:30.
For those of you joining us, the little pause before webinar starts. We had a lot of people register, so let's give them all a chance to get settled.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's apathetic or pessimistic yet. I guess I'll go in and vote for those. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's right now, Justin. I mean, I talked to you earlier today, so you know my mood earlier today. Right.
I was thinking about doing these as like philosophers. So there's like the bottom that would be Nietzsche, and then it would go up to like Kant, and it would, I don't know, we're just sort of nerding out over this idea of like, well, what philosopher are you right now? Oh, somebody's pessimistic. Was that you, Jen? Did you vote for that just because?
No, I was optimistic. I don't know if panelists should vote, but I did.
Yeah, I clicked the button to allow it. I'll allow it.
Thanks, Foster.
This is like your
You have
favorite
the allow button? That's not good.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is like perfect for him. Oh, I get to decide whether or not to allow Jen to respond at the click of a button. All right. Yay for the apathetic. I go to apathy a lot. It's a swinging joint. All right, if you're just joining us, welcome to Will Marketing Still Matter webcast. We are just gathering some information as everyone gets settled in the form of a poll. So if you haven't responded yet, go ahead and give us your thoughts on your mindset in progress. As I often say, all emotions are welcome, all mindsets are welcome. We certainly are open to wherever you're at today, and it's all good. And we're just gonna wait a few more seconds, and then I think we should giddy up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Last 30 seconds here. Go ahead and respond. We will kick it off. And if you haven't had a chance and you saw in the chat window, we'd love to know where you are joining us from today too.
I got Austin, Texas, and San Francisco Bay Area, and Boise, Idaho.
Yay.
And Dallas, Texas. Scottsdale, Arizona, Calgary, Canada, Juneau, Alaska, more Austin, New Jersey. Oh, I love this all over the place. Bruce is in Austin. Austin, Suzanne in Austin, Lexington, Kentucky.
That's so exciting. I love it. This gives me chills. Makes me feel so joyful to know that we're all together.
North Dakota and Rush Center, Kansas, Phoenix, Arizona.
Wasn't it around this time? Wasn't it last April that we were in, or was that March that we were in North Dakota and then to Moorhead? March, yeah. 21 below that Friday.
Still thawing out.
Still worth the walk, I will say. Still worth the walk from the Courtyard Marriott to the Village
Waffle House?
Village Inn.
It was
I don't know if I would have done it for a Waffle House, but Village Inn.
I was going to say.
Yeah,
Village
he was so
Inn.
excited about Village Inn. He's like, come on, Sikorsky, let's go get Village Inn waffles. I'm like, it's a 30 below. But I did it. I couldn't breathe the entire time, but I did it.
All right.
All right.
Panel, can you tell us where you're all from? Coming at us from where? Tell us where.
Sunny Chandler, Arizona.
I'm Scottsdale, Old Town Scottsdale, Arizona.
I am in Austin, Texas, north of the river.
Awesome. And I'm in Old Town Scottsdale as well.
Great.
All right. Go.
All right. So just a little bit of some intros, so you know who you're talking to. I'm Justin.
And the poll real quick too.
Okay.
Go ahead and do that.
Right.
Cool.
There's the results, so you can see them for now. Anyway, I'm Justin Foster. I'm the co-founder of Root and River.
And I'm Emily Sikorsky, also the co-founder.
I'm Jen Lawhead, Chief of Story.
And I'm on mute. No, I'm Kat Weiss, and I'm Chief of Staff at Root and River.
So we love doing these kind of discussions where, you know, if it were a live, like in-person event, we try to make it as fun and interactive as possible in those events. And so we're translating that here to Zoom and interaction. So a few things on interaction for you is there'll be one other poll I think that will launch here in a little bit. Please make liberal use of the chat box, and if you have a particular question you'd like to ask, you can raise your hand down in the participants section, and you can raise your hand and we can actually allow you to talk from there if you have a question or a comment. There's going to be some open discussion, but participation is not mandatory in that, and there is going to be a plenty of opportunity to ask us questions as we go on through our time together.
Yes, and we really invite you to be vocal, and if there's something that, you know, it may be a question or maybe a comment that you'd like to make, we always welcome at Root and River all input. All feedback is good, and if there's something that's unclear, you'd like to challenge something, it's welcome. It's all welcome. So know that about us and our culture. And do keep in mind though that we have an hour together, and so kind of keep your comments brief if you can, to make your point or your questions brief, so that we have plenty of time for as many people as possible.
Great.
All right.
Any other housekeeping or setup things that we need to share?
I think we're good.
All right. So our first question, our first thing that we'd like you to ponder is actually a question. And this is an open discussion question. So the intention of this webinar is really through the lens of how do you market? But you know, we're answering the question, will marketing still matter? How do you market in this emerging new world? We're well past how to market during it. really. There's plenty of resources for that. This is about how you're going to market after we're on the other side, more in recovery mode. And so our first question, and you can answer in the chat or you can raise your hand and we'll call on you, is in your world of marketing, what's not working anymore? What has this pandemic ended as a marketing tactic for you?
Would you repeat it one more time?
Yeah. What marketing, in your world of marketing, what's not working anymore?
Okay.
Looks like
Got Samantha saying in-person sales. Mike Williams, focusing only on my home geographic market. Good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Can't do in-person sales anymore. I think we're really learning too about the difference between being together and being in someone's presence.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been an interesting experience for me.
Karen said an ad-only approach is done, and man, we so agree with that. Like, you're not going to promote your way out of this. You're going to have to do something else, which we'll talk more about in a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And Charlie says getting clients to think further out in time. In time is challenging. Not even willing to entertain new normal discussion yet. Totally.
Interesting, Charlie. Thank you.
Yeah.
The constant urge to push foot traffic to their retail location.
Yes. Yes. Being very location bound. That sounds like it's come up a couple times for people.
Yeah.
Geographically minded, as Mike said. Yes.
Yeah. Great.
So in thinking about this new era that we're in, and we're already in it. So Charlie, to your point, you know, it's not out there, it's now, right? That's what you can share maybe with some clients. Our next poll is, does your marketing strategy need to change based on what you're experiencing? So you may think, yes, absolutely, it needs to change. No, I'm sticking with what I've been doing, or partially, or hey, I don't even know yet. Maybe I'm just still in that place where so many people are. I'm not sure what needs to change. But for you, do you see that your marketing strategy needs to change? So it looks like we've got a lot of partially so far in the 60th percentile here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some honest folks saying they don't know yet. Good. Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah. And I think if we were to look at this on like a curve, there's been the like the communication during a crisis. We covered this on a past webinar, and I think most brands have their handle around how they're communicating with their audiences, with their constituencies, both internal and external. But I think that unless you were doing no marketing, something's probably going to change in this process. And I saw, Samantha, you said, you mentioned something about messaging. And I think that is spot on. I think a lot of people are there. It's like maybe the marketing engine or apparatus is going to stay the same, but what you're going to talk about is going to change significantly.
Which really reflects in the predominant answer here, which is partially, right? Some things are going to change. Maybe some things are going to stay the same. So that was the top answer. 22% say yes, 15 say I don't know yet, and 4 say no. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Great. So here's our second, we want to share a little bit of the way that we see things right now for what it's worth. What we see is really not working anymore, not moving businesses forward and not moving this new era forward. So the first one is this idea of demand generation thinking, which really has to do with trying to convince people that they need your product. I mean, we often preach this prior to this time, that your role as a brand or as a marketer is not to convince anyone of anything. And that's a bit of heresy, I think, sometimes when we're in those conversations. But your audience, this goes to audience, that your audience is not the people that you got to convince that they need your product or service. It is and are the individuals who are already out there looking for you because something in their world is not working the way it should. But they have already become convinced that they need something else. And so they are seeking you. And that is only amplified right now. So we just think that trying to drum up or convince or do pain point marketing to really hammer in some sort of pain just so you can provide a solution, that's not working now, nor do we see that working in the future.
Yeah. And I think one of the just general premises of old marketing, of pre-COVID marketing, is that you had to be something different than you were in order to sell something that people maybe they didn't need it. And that's a frustrating place. If you're a marketer, if you're a director of marketer or some, marketing leader inside of your organization, that's a frustrating place to be. But now the good news is, with this shift from like demand gen style, beat the drum, then to something else, which we'll share in a little bit, that we call humanistic marketing. This is an opportunity for marketers now to do something maybe that down in your soul you knew was a better way to do it than those old ways anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I see that Samantha has her hand raised. Let's go.
Hand up, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Kat. Whoops. Samantha lowered her hand. If you still want to, oh, you're back. Hi, Samantha, go ahead. You're on the air. Oh, that was a mistake. Okay.
So it was a mistake. Yes, I apologize.
That's okay.
Okay. Aww.
Okay. Let's see. Sorry, I'm doing that. So the second one that we think is not going to work anymore is FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And FUD has been the kind of the way that marketing has been done really for the past like 70 years. And if you want to nerd out over this, you can go look at what the influence that Sigmund Freud's nephew had on advertising. And it was this idea, him taking what they'd learned from like these propaganda apparatuses like Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union and America, as well as the way that we use propaganda to manipulate masses of people. And so that era, that kind of spawned the Mad Men era that we see, and this use of fear as an instrument of manipulation or instrument of change, and what is called in psychology and sociology gaslighting too, in particular, which is playing on someone's fears to make them feel crazy and you're the hero. And that's, I'll just say what it is. It's kind of evil, to be honest with you. And so that doesn't work anymore is a good thing. There
will still be, to be clear though, there will still be people that will use this approach. And I think definitely post-pandemic, they'll use this approach to say, hey, we've got to reclaim the way it was, because otherwise, we won't get back to where we were. So just be on the lookout for that. I think it'll be interesting to see. So the last one is thinking of human beings as abstracts. And as cruel and as harsh as that sounds, is very, very common in the era that we're coming out of. And just, that's really about being detached from your own soul and your own worth as a human being. It's also being detached from the stories of people that you are trying to serve or you're trying to market to or connect with. And when you think of human beings in the abstract, it's very easy to manipulate, to use fear, uncertainty, and doubt, to take a demand gen approach to things. And so that won't work anymore, because people are really spending a lot more time within themselves, away from distractions and away from the busyness of our lives. And in that space, we're being more connected to our own humanity. And there's so many signs of this out there in our neighborhoods, right? People writing notes on chalkboards, people just doing anything to make a human connection. So that's where we are today. And we just don't believe that that kind of abstract thinking about humans will work any longer.
even thinking in terms of like your target audience. And what we teach our clients is it's a garden, not a shooting range. You're nurturing. And so when we see humans as targets, like to sell stuff to, what that is an abstract unto itself, because you're distancing yourself from them. Was there a question, Kat, or Jen, that came up that I saw?
Yeah, Karen had a great question. She basically, let's see. She says the easy or ideal audience, but some audiences do need to be educated on how to solve their pain point or problem. No?
Yeah, we would agree with you, Karen. That is true. And so the difference between education and persuasion is that education, in our view, is bringing light to the conversation. So you can still emphasize a pain point, but you're shining a light on it. You're talking about helping them get better, feel better, solve a problem. You're not exploiting the pain. And I totally, depending on the level of what you're selling, what it is that, the market sometimes does need to be educated. And I would say also that they need to be educated, maybe not on the pain, but why they should choose you. And this is where we say, humility is a great character trait, but a terrible brand strategy. So you got to give people a reason to buy from you. And that's part of an education process as well. And what's interesting in the way that we believe this is that we use a lot of adult development theory, which is it is education. We are teaching adults how to think differently about something. And so very much agree with the education component. So our next question is an open discussion question is, what are you gravitating towards? What is working? What have you started to see? Maybe it's worked all along and now it's working, it's continuing to work, or maybe you've seen an uptick in certain marketing tools or marketing methodologies that have suddenly started working even better during all of this.
And you can think of this in terms of your own work, or you can think about it in terms of what have you responded to? What marketing or messages have you found yourself, gravitating towards?
Mm-hmm. Monica already chimed in saying referrals and warm intros.
Yeah.
Definitely seeing that as well.
Yeah.
Focus on the customer client experience, expanding within existing customer base, authenticity and humanness, i.e. flexibility.
Flexibility is huge. I was recently talking to somebody about a project I was wanting to do for myself, and I was like, how can we structure the payments? And she said, you know what? Pay me later. My business is good right now. Let's not even have that as part of the discussion. Let's talk about that in 2 months. And I was just like, it was just so awesome to have that flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
I've been inspired by some brands are even being very proactive in terms of payment, like State Farm. If you have State Farm insurance, they're knocking off 25% this month just because they recognize people aren't driving as much. And what a branding moment to say, hey, we recognize what's going on in the world. We're going to, instead of waiting for the call, can we have a discount on our insurance? We're just going to, give a blanket discount because we recognize the hardship you could be potentially facing.
Yeah. We have some great other virtual trainings, conversation and workshops, teaching virtually face-to-face. People still want to gather, even if it means online or in a new way. Maddie says, I'm seeing lots of trends in restaurant advertising right now with no contact delivery, finding ways to still serve while minimizing fear. And Samantha said, we have increased open rates on our current client newsletters. We are being seen as a source of information, even in areas we previously weren't experts.
Great. That's great to hear. We always teach that messaging is about providing information and inspiration. So really good to hear that that's working well.
Yeah, I've seen here in Austin and maybe other cities too, I'm sure, is a lot of more transparency about their business situation. Like Well, this one is the one that comes to mind is up in Seattle in Gravity Payments. The Dan Price is the founder and CEO, and he just said we've had a 50% drop in profits, and we need customers. Who do you know? Like, just flat out saying this is what's going on, and I think that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Lots of great feedback and ideas in here, and it's encouraging. It's encouraging to see all these various things that are working.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Free content. Yeah, I love this hosting Zoom sessions for biz groups as well as family and friend happy hours, which is great.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's so many. Yeah, great.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
So now we want to lean into that and talk about this next era, what we're calling it, how we see it developing and unfolding, and then give you some ideas that really anchor and will help bring in this next era. And I am going to do a little live drawing while we talk.
Cool. So, I guess we own this term. We coined it anyway, right, Em? Humanistic marketing. And we see humanistic marketing as like off the same tree as intrinsic branding, which is the category that we strive to own in the world. And what we teach our clients to do is to own a category. And so we see humanistic marketing as a practice, and have a definition for it, which we'll share, which is humanistic marketing is the practice of engaging an audience by appealing to our common human experience and shared beliefs. So we'll just pause to capture that. I don't know if you're gonna capture that, Em, that definition.
Oh, well, it's all right. You don't have to pause for me.
Okay, all right,
Catch
cool. Let's dig into what are the markers of humanistic marketing, some core ideas. And the first one is humans connecting with humans. And there's a couple of things here within this that if you as a brand individually or your organization are connected to your own humanity, it's pretty damn hard to market to someone else's humanity. If there's a level of detachment from yourself. And you can see this in solo brands all the way up to big giant corporations. And another element is blunt but true as far as humans connecting with humans is just don't be an asshole. That's an extension of the Root and River golden rule of marketing, which is don't market unto others the way you wouldn't want to be marketed to. And so this human to human connection, or humans connecting with humans, requires a leadership to come out from behind the logo and put a face on things. And that's not just the CEO or the head of corporate communications. It's really anyone in the organization. We often say branding is not a department. It's everyone in a soulful brand is in branding. And so that's the first indicator of what we would say humanistic marketing. And the test here is you can be your own, if you're a marketer, you can be your own canary in the coal mine. Is if what you're communicating doesn't resonate with you, like if you don't feel it in yourself, then the likelihood that they're going to feel it is pretty low as well. And so that's a great advantage as opposed to like focus grouping a message, 6 messages and A/B testing this message or that message. Just stick to or focus on things that make you resonate.
And for those people, guys that are listening via phone, maybe can you just repeat the definition in as it stands, the entirety of it again, one more time?
You bet. So humanistic marketing, the way we're defining that is the practice of engaging an audience by appealing to our common human experience and shared beliefs. And we will be sending out these notes afterwards to everybody, whether you've joined us via phone or live. So you'll have this definition written out for you as well.
so we're going to go through these, there's these 4 core ideas. Then we're going to share with you some examples of brands that we see doing it right. The second one is, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but is transparency is an action. The saying is love is a verb, and that's true in business as well, but transparency is a verb as well. It's not an intention only. It's what it requires is openness is at the top of the organization's hierarchy, not image. And in old marketing, image was often at the top of that hierarchy, and what was important to the image was more important than the truth of what really was going on. And not that you don't see that still, but in humanistic marketing, there's a kind of a vulnerability or an openness to sharing what's really going on inside your organization, both to your employees and to your customers. You could say it's telling the truth, but it's telling the truth through the perspective of inviting people to understand where you're coming from.
I think there's been a lot of lip service to transparency over the last several years, where it's like, oh yeah, we're transparent. We tell this slice of the truth. And as Brene Brown talks about, transparency is really about getting to the place where you're uncomfortably vulnerable. And so there's not a ton of organizations that actually practice that level of transparency. I think in the post-pandemic world, we are already demanding as customers, consumers, clients. We really want to know the truth of what's happening. And so companies, organizations, brands are going to have to take transparency as an action, not as an idea. It's not just putting out an annual report. It's taking action to say, yeah, we're struggling too, or we're revamping that, or quite frankly, we're getting rid of this part of our business because it's not serving, or we're shifting. And I'm seeing more and more companies being very open about what they're shifting to right now. And I think that's really the conversation that we had around transparency being an action.
Mm-hmm. So the third one is mastering storytelling is mastering marketing. So in the old world, which really ended in about March officially, in the old world, you could be a great marketer and not be a great storyteller. You could do it. You could have the best click funnels and the best Super Bowl ad, and you could do it. You could drive traffic. It could still be done. But in this bifurcation of marketing between humanistic marketing and really inhumane marketing, the retooling is becoming a master storyteller. And partially it's because, and I think it's always been this way, it's just even more pronounced now, is that storytelling is the lifeblood of your brand. It is a practice, a skill, a discipline that was fueling your brand through word of mouth and water cooler talk and whatnot all the while. But now it's just coming to the forefront is if you become a master storyteller, you now become a master marketer.
And every brand, every business needs to really begin to think of themselves in terms of being storytellers. And that doesn't mean the marketing department. So again, we always teach that branding is a practice, and it's a whole cultural practice, right? So learning how to become storytellers and in a mindful and intentional way is really a cultural shift inside of our organizations that we're going to be making and moving towards more and more.
Mm-hmm. And so
Can I insert a comment real quick, Justin, before you move on?
Yeah.
So Monica made a good point. She said, as we've been on conference calls, we see each other's homes, kids, pets, messiness, gray hairs. We're shifting to being less judgmental.
Yeah.
And then she goes on to say, it definitely speaks to transparency.
Yeah.
I love that's my favorite part right now. Just you get to see everybody in their natural habitat. I love that.
Yeah.
I thought that was important to share what Monica had to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great comment. True.
Great. Yeah.
What a relief, right? What a relief to see people in their beautiful messiness, and what a relief to let down that curtain or that veil that we all keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thought that comes to mind related to being a master storyteller is it's important to understand that the mastery of storytelling isn't the push. It isn't, we got to get our story out there. It's that you are able to bring tension and flavor and character development, like all the things that make a great mystery novel or a great screenplay, those are all applicable here. So this is a great time if you're a marketer that has a more of a creative bent, and maybe you love theater, or you got your version of your best-selling novel that you've been working on the last little while, that's your detective series or whatever. That kind of spirit of story is going to serve you way better in humanistic marketing than being a technical marketer that and not that the technical marketing stuff isn't important, it's just less important than being a storyteller.
Mm-hmm. The fourth one is courage to own your own uniqueness. So we really teach and preach that branding is an act of courage, and essentially it's powered by this idea that you have a distinct point of view that deserves to be heard and that deserves to be told. And the era of kind of saying something comfortably safe, it's over. People aren't that interested in the comfortable, safe things anymore. They're interested in understanding where you stand and being able to then determine how they want to interact with that or not. And so humanistic marketing is about harnessing that courage and setting aside the idea that you're not special, that you don't have a distinct identity or standpoint to express.
Mm-hmm. And another principle here underneath this courage to own your uniqueness is make the world react to you. Our social conditioning, especially Americans, has been to kind of hang back and maybe adjust who you are in order to be accepted by the market. And what if we say that and they don't like it? What if we offend someone? And we're not saying be brash and callous and, going back to humans talking to humans, don't be an asshole. But part of that is letting them feel who you really are. And, brands like Patagonia, Southwest Airlines, or Nike, they were already doing this. And so when this massive chaos and shift happens, it's not like they're going to be doing it any differently than they've always done it. But this is an opportunity for brands that maybe have played more of that small ball or cautious or hang back, like, the teenage boy at the dance that's waiting for somebody to come up and ask him to dance, like, get out there and make the world respond to you by your words and your actions and the stories that you're telling.
So we have some examples of this because it's great to see things, in action. Great to see brands that are really nailing this. So I'll stop my share.
Okay, and I'll start mine. Oops. So each of these brands that we are talking about here, they're really practicing all four of these, but so you can look at them as examples for all four of these practices of humanistic marketing. And the first one we wanted to point out is Airbnb, and they've really organized their entire brand around this. Like there's no like pretending like it's not going on, or saying when they're not pretending like there isn't some sort of crisis, that they're wrapping it into their brand of how they communicate who they are.
Yes, and as for people who are listening in, their homepage that we've brought up here says we may be apart, but we'll get through this together. And then they talk about how they are providing different experiences. I mean, this is an industry and a company that has been decimated by the current situation, and yet they're choosing to focus on online experiences in the one image. The second one, monthly stays, people who maybe have to stay somewhere longer than they were anticipating, and then finally frontline stays, so find or provide accommodations for COVID-19 responders. So they're using their tremendous assets and they're offering them out to the community in service. So that's really an example we felt of humans connecting with humans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think another example of this goes more to transparency, but their CEO has been very transparent both to their internal teams and then to the marketplace about how much it's hurt. And here's what's interesting. They haven't tried to promote their way out of this. They're not offering like, it's these big, like a big advertisement that says stay for $45 a night, or, the traditional promotion. They are sticking to their original idea of the founders, which was to bring people together. They're sticking to that, which is very admirable. And I sincerely hope that as we get to the other side of this, that this willingness to be brave like this and say who you are and talk about what's going on will be rewarded by the marketplace, that the marketplace will help them catch back up. That's my sincere hope.
The next example we have is of transparency in action. And as we talked about this, we really thought that Andrew Cuomo's actions have really been very transparent. I mean, he is actively sitting at these daily press conferences and giving out not only information, but the status of things, and unabashedly saying, hey, things aren't looking good right now. And he's been pretty vocal as well in how he's feeling and how he's reacting to it. Very human. It's not it's not overly spun. It's not overly done. It's just showing up and letting people know where he's at and where the state of New York is at.
I think with him, especially, it's frequency. Like, it's not just once, like I'm going to do it once and check the box. Like, it's over and over repeatedly. So transparent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you could see the contrast of old world marketing, which is using your bully pulpit as a prop for propaganda. And he's not doing that. I mean, he certainly has his political beliefs and everything, but this is, to us, leadership on full display related to transparency. And it's helping his personal brand for sure. Definitely.
So this is a super fun one. This is our example of mastering storytelling is mastering marketing. And it's a company called Oatly, and they make oat milk, which my oldest daughter has recently just gone bananas for. And they're just having a lot of fun. I love this copy. I'm going to read it out. This is on their homepage of their website. It's got a silly photo of somebody wearing sweatshirts on top and bottom, so it looks like this interesting person. But it says, Oatly Department of Distraction Services. Our creative department has momentarily lost all interest in trying to sell you our oat drink. Instead, we have focused on finding ways to help eliminate any unwanted stress and reduce the negative impact associated with an increase in boredom at home. The Oatly Department of Distraction Services is here to serve you with the finest in nonsense and distraction. It's such a fun way of telling the internal story of their team of designers and creatives. And they're opening it up. I think I put the other example of the next page. If you click through to the Department of Distraction Services, you'll find a whole bunch of fun things, like how to make puppets out of their containers. There's a jingle jukebox. There's how to make a nacho boat. My favorite one is one of their designers will draw your dream. So you can submit the last dream you had and she'll make a drawing of it. And although it's silly, it's also very tuned in to what we need right now, which is some fun, some lightness, some creativity, some quirkiness. And they're literally saying in that statement that we're setting aside our business to just bring some levity, bring some warmth and some lightness. So I think that's maybe people don't think of that as storytelling, but it's certainly both storytelling and showing your uniqueness in my eyes. So check them out. They're awesome. And our last one is courage to own your uniqueness. And full credit to Dove. They've been doing this for years. So our last example here is Dove. They have a number of campaigns to talk about real beauty, and to actually, this campaign that's being featured on this slide is the Show Us campaign, More Women Who Look Like Me. And it really encourages people to show who they are, and they highlight those, they tell the stories of the individuals that are featured, and they also give people a chance to tell their own stories. And it's really elevating the idea that we all deserve to be seen, and there is no one standard of beauty. And as the mother of girls who are teenagers and preteens, I just love this. I can't get enough of it. Show it to my kids, and it's really what we need in the world, in my opinion. So
yeah, and I think this is part of humanistic marketing. Is the business model you're in is not really the business you're in, very likely. So Dove is not selling soap here. They're selling acceptance. They're selling a reframing of beauty. They're selling a movement. And soap is how you access it, or beauty products or personal hygiene products. It's similar in our world. We sell brand coaching. That's our business model. But really, what we sell is confidence. Is this the sense that you can show up in any conversation and confidently share who you are, share your message. And so our challenge to you, if you're as marketers, is to do something similar, to use this time to show people what business you're really in. One of our clients is a peanut butter manufacturing company out of Phoenix area called PB Americano. And they talk about being in the spreadable happiness business. They're not really in the peanut butter business. That's their business model, peanut butter wholesale or peanut butter manufacturing. They're in the spreadable happiness business. So similar to that. All right.
So we always love to get practical at Root and River. And as we mentioned in the promotion, I guess, of this event, we put together a field guide to help you navigate kind of what to do with all of this information, what to do next. And so we're going to provide that guide to you, but we do kind of want to walk you through some of the key elements of it. So go ahead and share the screen, but we'll also talk through it. So this is the first of many field guides that we'll be doing, but this is a field guide for humanistic marketing amidst a crisis. And there are kind of three ways, or three stages, I guess we should say, phases to this process. And the first stage, as with everything at Root and River, is an inner journey, an internal inquiry. And we call that reconsider. So as Justin just mentioned, it's about taking a little bit of this extra time, if you have any, to reconsider. Ask yourself, why are we in business? Why do we exist? What business are we really in? Second question to ask is, what makes us essential? So we've heard this idea of essential and non-essential, and that's been playing out in interesting ways. And so it is a little bit of a play on the timely factor, the timely connotation of that word essential, but it's also to dive deeper into, what do we provide that's really at a soul level, serving our audience? Mm-hmm. And then the last reconsider question, are we using sensitive language? Are we using language that is sensitive to the times, that is sensitive to people where they are right now?
Yeah, and so what you can do with these then is go into this next phase or next step of recalibrating your brand to be humanistic. So under why are we in business, one example, so we call it rerouting, which is rerouting is going back to what your basics are. An example is when Alan Mulally took over as CEO of Ford a few years ago. He went back and dug up a lot of the old messaging that Henry Ford used to communicate to employees and reconstituted that or revived it as keeping people tuned into the roots. Disney's famous for this as well, with the way that they can constantly returning to their roots of what their mission is. And it's not that missions don't evolve, but if you've been in business a while, going back and rerouting in what prompted you to start the business in the first place is an essential. Under what makes us essential, one of the things that we would recommend is create a new list of differentiators. Instead of the old ones that you had, look at things through the lens of current realities and answering the question, and produce a new set of differentiators that then can inform your marketing, your outbound marketing. Like a did you know? This goes back to the question earlier about education. Did you know that we know how to do this? Did you know that we offer this service? And maybe it's not something that you would have marketed pre-COVID, but now it's something that if it's essential, the world needs to know about it. Don't forget in this is that the way you do things is a differentiator. The way you treat people, your business systems, your methodologies, your philosophies, those are all differentiators because only you and your organization are doing it your way, even if you've got a lot of competition. So telling stories and digging into those.
And then lastly, for the, are we using sensitive language? You really want to think about determining the feelings that your message, your brand will elicit. And maybe you're not sure if you're evoking those emotions today in your audience, so it's a good time to check in with them. But also get very clear about your intention for how you want to, what you want to engender, the feelings that you want to share or transfer with your audience. All marketing is emotional. All life is emotional. And so it's always a good idea. It's always a good practice to understand where you're at emotionally, and then as a result of that, be able to spread that into the world. I just wrote about that today on LinkedIn, so check that out. So really, really kind of digging into those feelings that you're wanting to convey. And the last column is about retooling, and we give you some very concrete examples that we'll send out. We don't have to go through here one by one, but just it's actions that you can take once you've answered those first few questions and work through those practices to reach out to people. Goes into writing emails and other things the actions that you can take to remain relevant and to begin this mindful practice of humanistic marketing in the midst of this moment.
You can always ask this is a retooling, ask your customers, your base, your employees and your customers what they need too. And you see some massive retooling going on with companies, retooling to make ventilators or masks or whatnot. But there's a lot of other needs that people have right now. That's one area to think about, differentiation and essentials. And then when you're looking at your language, there's this little kind of rubric of like 3 things to do. One is to audit it, like go into your like your website, your marketing material, your sales sheets, all of that stuff, and look through it. But also then your verbal, the way that like your sales pitches or the way that your CEO talks or the way you talk, digital, social, all of those touch points, and you do an audit. And then remove is the second part, the anything that's persuasion or selling or pitchy. And that's, again, just trust your own intuition. If it feels like BS, it probably is. And then going back to what Emily said about the feelings you want your message to elicit is align your words to those feelings. And that takes discipline and to do that, to speak that kind of language, because we're not talking about political correctness here. We're talking about sensitivity, which is an extension of emotional intelligence and compassion. Is align those, use the words, align your words to the feelings that you are important that other people feel about your brand.
All right. So now we get to chat a little bit more. We have some space for any questions, comments, rude remarks, anything that you'd like to ask us about in regards to anything that we've shared. Jen, is there anything that's popping out for you as far as, how people are, are there other examples that you had that great example earlier of, what brand was it that's doing this?
State Farm.
State Farm. Yeah, I had that thought last night when I saw one of their commercials. How proactive they are, but
Yeah, I think there's I think a lot of different brands are handling it in different ways. From a storytelling perspective, Southwest has had some interesting posts. If you look at their Instagram, like one in particular was really powerful. It showed an empty plane with just one little head in the back. And it said, our flights are looking different these days. On this flight, we have one individual. But he's flying coast to coast to go help from California to New York to help out at that crisis. And it just gave me chills. And, anytime, just something general about stories is as a brand, when you focus on stories, you have to talk about the humans. And it's a stark contrast from all the ClickFunnels. And by focusing on stories, you have to talk about human beings. And I think anytime you can do that as a brand, to talk about, what humans are experiencing, whether it's one person or a group of people, anything new that you're doing, when you focus on the humans, it's going to be really powerful right now.
Yeah, so true. Well said.
Well said.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one. Truth in advertising and whether people will be less tolerant post-COVID of falsifying their ads. Shaving cream substitute for whipped cream, glue, and pizza to show stretchy cheese. Yeah, I think that goes to kind of what Dove is doing. And there's been other brands.
Target is doing this a lot as well. I've noticed. Target,
yeah, and showing what's real. I think reality is, it sounds funny to say, but reality is going to be hot for a while. Like showing as being as authentic and as organic in what you are. And I don't think this means that that you should, that it needs to be amateurish. I understand why they're using kind of this over production of certain things, because that's sometimes how people perceive things should be, but it's also an opportunity to show them something different, show them, like Jen said, rather than show the stretchy cheese, show the human delivering your pizza and the fact that she's a single mom with 3 kids and she's still working, and because while you're, sheltered in place, that type of stuff. That would be what we would recommend, that type of thing. Less about showing real cheese, just show real humans.
I think that tactic comes from fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and demand gen. I mean, it comes from the seeds of that, right? This idea that we need to convince people they have to eat this cheese, like that's going to be so delicious, or we need to convince people that this product foams up when we know it really doesn't. So I think it is really embedded in obviously our advertising culture, but ad sales have just plummeted. I was just reading a blog post about this. So I think this is a forced change, and people are going to be, as Justin said, in the space of wanting a more real depiction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the positive side effects from all of this is that Burger King has stopped airing those stupid fake burger ads. So it's like that thing you sent, Jen, and I'm not making fun of vegetarians, but it was like all the vegan meats. Remember you sent me that picture? Like that's what was all that was left in the meat case, was all the non-meat. And so this idea then of being, what's the term? Essential from almost an emotional standpoint as well. I think that's going to be an extension of this period that we're in. Any other questions, comments? Oh, here's one. You want to read that, Kat or Jen?
Sure. Maddie says, more of a question or a comment than a question, but I think it's interesting that a lot of brands are still ignoring humanity, ignoring current events, and ignoring the pandemic in their advertising right now. I keep seeing regular car commercials and think, who on earth is buying a car right now? It seems almost insensitive that this brand is still airing their regular commercials. Authenticity and sensitivity is the way to go for a while.
Yes. Yeah.
The Mucinex commercials.
Wow.
But my husband and I were watching, whatever, and the Mucinex commercial comes on, and we're like, how tone deaf? Like, pause on these commercials right now. No,
Right.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. The like GM though is they quickly turned around like their advertisement, like, hey, we know what's going on. Times are tough. So it's first 4 months are free, 0 down, 0. I mean, and yeah, they're trying to sell cars, but they're also saying we're making it easier for you. And that's that kind of respectful of the moment type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Samantha has a question here. It says our clients are small business owners. They're in the weeds right now. They need to figure out how to stay open. They don't feel like giving us feedback right now. How can we be sensitive to that and get the information we need to help them more? Great question.
I think that's a great question. It's a huge challenge. I think it goes to, as I have involved a lot of entrepreneurial communities, that there's a lot of people in this space. And I think it's sort of being that creative part of their brain for them. So it's sort of maybe, getting on a whiteboard or setting aside some time to think about their business and think about other ways that they could be communicating. Maybe it's just a tip on how they could be messaging to their audience. Maybe it's something you read about from the SBA. Just trying to get into their mindset and providing whatever you can to help them in any way. Maybe not your typical services, but in any way provide that support. And I also think just encouragement that you're there, you love them,
Mm-hmm.
and you're rooting for them. And if there's an opportunity to make a warm introduction, obviously do that. But and so much the other day I just thought, all I need today is just love. It's hard out here, and I think we all need a little extra TLC right now.
And to the question of the small business owners, one of the things, if your clients are small business owners, you can be as a resource curation center.
Mm-hmm.
So you can ask them, what do you need? And we're going to match you with what someone else has a resource. Maybe they need delivery drivers now, and one of your other clients has extra vans. But find out what they really need, and then play matchmaker with each other. And now you get to the highest level of influence, which is being a connector anyway. So did Mike have a question? Just somebody want to read that one?
He does. Jen, do you see it there?
Yeah, I'll tackle it. Mike asks, what are your thoughts about service providers doing giveaways during economic uncertainty? Goodwill generation, relationship building, or is it a cash losing strategy in the longer term?
I'm in favor of it, but I think you have to do an inventory for yourself first as far as how much time you want to give and energy, just because it's very easy to go way far down that path, and then to have to retract out of it is really difficult. And then I think it could become something that hurts you in the long term. So it's sort of like, what is the one way that I can give something away for free? And how can I do it in a way that still has a healthy boundary for me? So maybe you put a time sensitive thing onto it. Maybe I saw one person that said, hey, I'm setting aside every day from 9 to 12. If you want to talk, she's a photographer. She can't do her thing anymore. Reach out to me. I was like, wow, that's a lot of time, but maybe she has that time. So I think it's find out, like, kind of get with yourself about how much time and energy you want to give to that, give it, but to have healthy boundaries around it. And leave yourself room to maybe adjust, is my thought.
Yeah, I'll chime in with a thought here too. Sometimes I think giveaways are a little bit of like hijacking a connection, or hijacking more followers or whatnot. I would maybe get creative with it, and maybe there's 5 people that you've been wanting to work with or been wanting to work with you, and maybe you gift them like almost like a scholarship or gift them a session. I think that would be a lot more powerful than a blanket giveaway. And then you're really tapping into somebody who wants to work with you and isn't just responding to a giveaway because it's a free thing you're offering.
Great.
All right.
So yeah, as we wind down, we're gonna we're going to ask you to do, as you know, if you've ever been to a Root and River thing, we're going to ask you to do a 2-word checkout, and you can start to drop those in. We just want to know what you're feeling right now in 2 words. And so start dropping those into the comments. And then wanted to show one other thing, just so that you kind of know what we have going on. Whoops. So we have coming up on April 24th, which I think is next Friday, is one of our brand labs. If you've not been to a brand lab, they're like this, except very immersive. So it's 2.5 hours of diving in, and we intentionally sell these at a fairly low, a very low rate. It's $150 to attend one of our brand labs. And so we're having one on your message. And this goes back to Samantha and some others that were like, this is the time to recalibrate your message. Well, this brand lab, interestingly, we had scheduled for April 24th last year. And so the timing of it is pretty awesome in the sense of its usefulness. It's even more useful for crafting your message. We're also announcing first Thursday, the continuing of these webcast series, but we're going to be doing them on the first Thursday of each month. And the next one we're going to do is called Stop the Madness. And it's about humanistic marketing for marketing leaders. So we're going to get into these humanistic marketing principles, but we're going to get into them in a little deeper way in order for marketers, especially marketers of larger organizations, to find a little bit of peace in the chaos by bringing humanistic marketing in as a discipline into their plans for the future.
Yeah, and everybody that joins us will receive a marketing planning guide, so a tool to help you make that transition a little bit more easily.
Very good.
So thank you for all the responses, Kat. What do we have? How are people feeling?
People are feeling hopeful and motivated from Samantha. Monica says sweet thankfulness. I said sparked and calm. Maybe a better word is ignited. I thought of that after. Jen says inspired and happy. Mallory says tired and ready. Maddie, open and grounded. Bruce, enlightened and informed. Lou says feeling inspired. Samantha, curiosity piqued. And how about you guys?
Wonderful. I am centered and grateful.
Mm-hmm. Groundedly inspired.
Good one. Justin?
I would say fired up.
Fired up. Love it.
Mm.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. And as we mentioned, we will be sending out the recording as well as the notes and the one sheet guide that you saw. And we should have that out to you by tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking a little time. And we hope that you have at least one thing that you can go do today with this. And we would love to have you attend everything else coming up for that we have planned. So thank you all. Thank you, Kat and Jen, for co-facilitating and sharing your insights. Thank you, Emily, for being awesome as usual. And you all have an awesome rest of your, the days are blurring together. Your awesome rest of your Wednesday.
It's just today. There's no days.
Thursday. Yeah. Yeah, they're just today. All the days are today. Yeah.
Today.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.